The hunger is a quiet thing. It is the hollow cough of old tenor, a sound like dry leaves skittering across stone. It is the listless silence of the children who no longer have the energy for games of chase. It is the dull look in the eyes of the hunters who return each dusk with empty hands and a deeper exhaustion. The clan lives on the lip of a great green valley, a place that was once a paradise. But now, the berry bushes are barren, the small game has vanished, and the very soil seems to have grown tired of giving. The land's carrying capacity has been reached and broken, and the people of the Red Ochre clan are slowly, inexorably starving. This is the brutal irony of their existence. They are dying of thirst while standing at the edge of the ocean. For twice a year, the great river of water but of flesh. A moving, thundering, endless migration of Edmontosaurus. Tens of thousands of the great duck-billed dinosaurs, each as long as 3 men lying end to end, pass through their territory, a flood of pebbled skin and muscle that makes the very earth tremble. It is the greatest concentration of meat any of them will ever see, and it is completely untouchable. To attack the herd directly is suicide, a mosquito trying to drink from a landslide. The beast's sheer mass is a defensive wall. They press together, their low moaning calls a constant hum, trampling anything that falls in their path. Picking off a straggler is a fool's errand. The sick and the old are kept at the center of the herd, protected by the sheer, moving bulk of the healthy. Ilara, a young huntress whose father was lost to the herd's panic 2 seasons ago, watches them from the cliffs. She sees not a feast, but a monument to her clan's powerlessness. They are ghosts in their own home, watching a banquet to which they are not invited. Her people are trapped in a paradox of the prehistoric world. Surrounded by abundance, yet starving, their survival skills, honed for stalking lone prey or ambushing smaller groups, are useless against this living avalanche. The clan's elder, Morwen, speaks of a time when the rains were regular and the valley was rich. Now, she just sits by the fire, her eyes tracing the patterns in the smoke. The land is hungry too, she rasps. And if we are not careful, the only harvest it will reap is the bones of our children. The desperation is a physical weight pressing down on them all. But it is in Ilara that the pressure is forging something new. She is not just watching the herd, she is studying it. She sees its rhythms, its fears. One afternoon, a bolt of lightning from a sudden storm strikes a tall pine near the herd's edge. The tree explodes in a shower of sparks. The reaction from the Edmontosaurus is immediate and profound. It is not anger, but a deep, primal, collective terror. A wave of panic ripples through the herd, and the section nearest the fire stampeders a blind, thundering rush away from the threat. They run until the smell of smoke is gone. Ilara watches, her heart hammering against her ribs. She looks from the terrified beasts to the sheer cliff face at the valley's narrowest point, a place the children call the edge of the world, and in her mind a terrible, brilliant idea begins to form. It is a thought that feels like sacrilege and salvation. Ilara's plan is met with a wall of fear and disbelief. She stands before the elders and the remaining hunters, her face illuminated by the flickering fire, and speaks of her vision. She does not talk of spears or traps, but of becoming the storm. "We will carry the lightning's fire in our hands," she says, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. "We will become a wall of flame they cannot pass." The older hunters shake their heads. To approach the herd is madness. To control it with fire is the talk of a hunger-mad child. But John, the clan leader, looks at the gaunt faces around him. He sees the truth. Their caution is leading them to a slow, certain death. Madness might be their only remaining tool. The choice is between the certainty of starvation and the slim possibility of a feast. He gives his assent with a slow, grim nod. The preparation is a community act of desperate faith. For 2 days, every able-bodied person works. They gather dry wooden pine branches thick with flammable resin. They bind them to the ends of long poles with strips of green hide. They are not making tools, they are making torches, hundreds of them. They are crafting the teeth of their firestorm. Ilara, moving with a focus that belies her youth, directs them. This is her hunt, this is her intelligence point. She explains how they will form 2 long lines on the cliffs above the valley floor, creating a funnel of fire that narrows towards the edge of the world. Her foresight is absolute, seeing the flow of the panicked herd as if it were water in a channel. The night of the hunt is starless and heavy. The clan moves into position, their dark forms slipping through the night. The unlit torches a forest of dormant spears. Below, the great river of Edmontosaurus flows, a sea of sleeping, breathing bodies. On Elara's signal, a single, piercing bird cry, the fires are lit. One torch touches another, and a wave of light and heat sweeps down both sides of the valley. A wall of fire is born. The clan members scream. They beat skins against the rocks. They hurl smaller as boar, flaming branches down towards the herd. They become a nightmare. The effect is instantaneous. The sleeping herd awakens to a world of roaring flame and terrifying noise. The panic is a living thing, a wave of terror that ripples through the mass of bodies. The fire doctor has begun. The front of the herd, blinded by fear, begins to run. They run from the fire, from the noise, from the encroaching walls of light. Elara's funnel works perfectly. The herd is channeled a thundering stampede of flesh and bone. Their low moans turn to high-pitched bellows of terror. They are no longer a river, but a tidal wave, and it is aimed at the cliff. The ground shakes with a violence that feels like the end of the world. The first of the great beasts reaches the edge of the world and does not stop. It cannot. The sheer pressure of the thousands behind it pushes it over the edge, a silent falling shadow. Then another and another. For a full minute, the air is filled with the thunder of the stampede and the sickening, percussive impacts from below. Then, as the fire-bearers hold their ground and the rest of the herd veers away, a new silence falls. The clan creeps to the edge of the cliff and looks down. Below them is a scene of utter devastation, a mountain of shattered bodies and twisted limbs, a new, man-made geology, a lesson in the brutal science of taphonomy. They have done it. The falling thunder has delivered them a feast that will last a lifetime. The golden age lasts 20 years. For the children born in its light, hunger is a word in a story, a myth from the time of their grandparents. They grow up strong and tall on an endless supply of roasted and smoked meat. The bone fields below the cliff are their playground, a sprawling white landscape of ribs and vertebrae. The clan's culture is reshaped by this abundance. They have time for art, for stories, for leisure. They are the wealthy kings of the valley, their larderests full, their bellies content. They tell the story of Elara's great hunt with pride, a legend of how human ingenuity conquered the prehistoric world. They teach their children how they too will command the falling thunder. They do not realize they are teaching a history that has already ended. Kale, Elara's son, is the first to feel the silence. He stands on the cliff edge where his mother once stood, but the valley below is no longer a river of flesh. It is empty. The great herds have not come for 2 seasons. At first they tell themselves the herds are simply late. Then they tell themselves the herds have found a new path. But a deeper, colder truth begins to settle in their bones. The Firedrives were too successful. The stampeders were too large. They did not just harvest the herd, they broke it. They have achieved a perfect, catastrophic success. The local population has been wiped out, a process of extirpation they have no name for, but whose consequences they are now beginning to live. The land begins to die around them. The great predators, the Tyrannosaurus and Carnosaurus that shadowed the herds, have moved on, leaving a void. But the smaller, more desperate ones remain, bolder and more aggressive than ever. The berry bushes and edible plants that once thrived, kept in check by the grazing of tens of thousands of dinosaurs, are now choked out by thorny, inedible weeds. This is the great, silent trophic cascade, the unraveling of a world they did not know they were a part of. Once kings are now prisoners in a barren land of their own making. The hunger has returned, but it is worse this time because it is a hunger seasoned with the memory of plenty. The hard choice falls to Kale. He is the leader of a generation that inherited a graveyard. He gathers the clan, their faces thin, their eyes haunted by the ghosts of a feast they can no longer taste. He looks at his mother, Elara, now an old woman, her face a roadmap of pride and sorrow too deep for words. He does not blame her. They were all complicit in their own doom. His act of altruism is to name the truth. The great river has run dry, he says, his voice echoing in the too quiet valley. The story of this place is over. We ate the whole story. He points not to the barren plains but away to the distant, unknown mountains. There are new stories there, and we must go find them, or we will become another bone in the fields below. They leave the next morning, a small, hungry band walking away from their greatest triumph, their legacy a silent testament to a victory that cost them everything. Their footprints in the dust marks the end of an epoch. In their golden age of plenty, they had inadvertently written the first chapter in a long and tragic human story, the story of unintended consequences. Their brilliance, the very spark of intellect that allowed them to command the land, had become a fire that consumed it. This was a pivotal lesson in the saga of human evolution, the moment our ancestors learned that power and wisdom are not the same thing. They were the first to face the haunting paradox that defines our species, that our ability to reshape the world is matched only by our ability to break it, and that the greatest threat to our survival is often the shadow of our own success. Their story is a warning, an echo that travels across the eons, reminding us that every feast has a cost, and that the ghosts of our victories are the hungriest of all. The cleverest ape is not the one who learns to start the fire, but the one who knows when to let it burn out. But in the frozen north, a different kind of hunger was forcing a new kind of bargain.